It's here. It's seemingly the Builder's Edition that everybody has been waiting on without maybe knowing it or saying it out loud. Taylor has finally done a Builder's Edition of its flagship 814 CE, and we're going to tell you all about it, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
And we're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for custom swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm sure we'll be talking about this guitar on that podcast in short order. This is a very cool guitar. So the Builder's Edition came out a few years ago, and it really was Andy Power's like director's cut of a guitar. They started with the K14 CE, or the Builder's Edition K14 CE, and then very quickly began to expand that along the range. But what's been missing is an 814 in that lineup.
Yeah.
So they did the Builder's Edition 816, which has been a great guitar. We have two different Koa models that are Builder's Editions, 912s, 614, 652, 324,
517, 717, 110, 150.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No. Builder's Edition Baby Taylor. That's coming. But just kidding. I did. So this has kind of been the one because the flagship of the line is the 814 CE. It was one of the guitars that Andy really kind of initially revamped. That was back in 2014. And I remember he talked about he threw everything at the bracing. That was when you had your advanced performance bracing, like every single kind of tweak and massage you could possibly do. That eventually led to the V-class bracing. And I think one of the things that's been this trend is like, what can we do next? We want to make the guitar more playable. That's been Taylor's hallmark. Then we want to increase its sound and resonance. And now we want to make the whole thing more comfortable to hold. And it comes with this host of features as a result.
So put a pin in that.
Yeah.
On the sidelines, Chris, a couple years ago, was like, I want to make my own change to an 814.
That's true.
And we've sold many of them, and we've talked about it a lot on the channel. It was the Alamo Music exclusive 814, Adirondack top, progressive diamond inlay, everything else pretty much the same.
Yep.
But yeah, we basically made the claim that an Adirondack top, a nicely done, open Adirondack top, might improve upon the 814.
Right. And it turns out we were not in the minority because this has an Adirondack top. So let's go through all the features, and then we're going to talk about some unique aspects to what Taylor is doing and kind of making a statement about with this guitar. So it is your 814 CE. A lot of the aesthetics on it are typical of what you would see on an 814 CE. So the inlay, the tone wood combinations are a little tweaked, right? So we've got an Addy top instead of Sitka spruce, but we have that same rosette, which is the abalone and rosewood. The same thing with the purfling around the top. We've got that rosewood pickguard. We've got that same striped ebony fingerboard and ebony bridge that we've seen on the 814 CE. We've got a beautiful, headstock where it's continuing this theme with the inlay, but we've got nice Goto tuners, which we've always loved. That was on the Deluxes for a time. Like an 814, it's got an armrest here, but it's not the radius.
Yeah.
Because it's a Builder's Edition. It's the full-on beveled armrest. And this is where we start to kind of diverge, okay?
Yeah.
So in addition to the Addy top with the V-class bracing, we have the full beveled armrest, which I really like. I have a custom Taylor with it. It's super comfortable. And as we've seen on other comfort treatments that Builder's Editions are getting, you have the beveled cutaway here with that convex carve, which is basically bent to follow the curvature of the heel of the guitar, making this extremely comfortable, and moving the strap button here so that you have full, comfortable access to that upper register. So if you are a guitar player that plays above the 12th fret, these are about the most comfortable you can get as far as a cutaway acoustic electric guitar. Coming back around, the binding edges are all chamfered, as we've seen on other Builder's Editions. So the whole thing is just enjoyable.
It's all about comfort, yeah.
The neck has its own unique carve. It's not, I've said this before, that's not super advertised, but they all play better
Yeah.
Cooper and I were talking about it. It's a really, really nice feel to it. And then you've got an interesting aspect to this that's different from all the other Builder's Editions.
It's gloss.
It's glossy. So all of the Builder's Editions up to this point have been a silent satin finish to get rid of the squeak, have a really thin finish. But I think a lot of people have said, I really like a gloss finish. I'm actually in both camps. I like a gloss finish, but I've really grown to like the more orchestral approach of a satin finish. But this is really nicely done. It is a gloss finish, still super thin, and it has a nice edge burst treatment that we were talking about. The back of it just makes it pop.
Yeah, it makes all the 3D aspects of the rosewood, which people don't often name amongst like really flashy, pretty looking woods. It's all about koa and flame maple and ebony and sassafras. But a really nice piece of rosewood looks fantastic. I mean, I was taking pictures of some 814s, regular 814s that we had the other day, and just the rosewood on them blew my mind.
Yeah.
And the edge burst really just kind of highlights the beauty. And Chris took it out. I mean, we have our unboxing.
Yeah, so we filmed an unboxing for this so you can see as we're talking. We're going to unbox this one because this is one everyone's been waiting on. So we have in this box, which you've already seen at this point, we're inserting this in the video, the Builder's Edition 814 CE.
That looks familiar.
We took this out, and as I turn it over, it's got this 3D effect to it.
That's very cool.
Which is what happens when you take and you do a very subtle richening of the grain with a nice like finish like this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about what else is going on here, because it's actually pronounced in the specs. I think Taylor could have hidden this, but they're actually trying to make a statement with this guitar.
Yeah.
You want to tell them what's going on?
It's an Adirondack top. 4-piece top.
It's a 4-piece top. So some of you right now are checking out and you're going like, okay, what's going on? So there's a concerted effort by Taylor to point this out and to talk about why. Adirondack disappeared from acoustic guitars for a long time. You think back on like golden era Martin guitars and the quintessential wood combination was Adirondack Spruce and Brazilian rosewood. And why are neither really used much anymore? Because both forests pretty much were being decimated. So you had Adirondack forests all but disappear, and Brazilian rosewood get overforested to the point that it became an endangered species and has been protected ever since. And so that has led builders like Taylor to make a more conservation effort when it comes to building with tone woods. And we think about that in terms of exotic tone woods, but I think sometimes we forget a Sitka forest can disappear, just like an Adirondack forest did. And the reason that Addy is available again is that trees that got planted many decades ago have matured to the point that they can be utilized. But if we're not careful, those forests could disappear again.
We're going to be planting a bunch of urban ash in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've seen this life cycle happen before. And so there's an effort to make more use out of the wood. Now, they did this with ebony, and they used the 814 to do it. We're going to invest in this ebony mill. We're going to make sure that there is both dark, very black ebony, but also stripy ebony, ebony with figure and color, and you're going to get used to it. You know why? Because 1, it's perfectly fine. 2, it looks beautiful actually. And 3, if you don't utilize that, you're being wasteful and eventually you run out of ebony.
Yeah.
And I think the market has taken to it. I think a lot of guitarists have come to appreciate the figuring on an 800 series. We've seen guitarists order custom guitars and go, I want extremely figured and colorful ebony.
Almost all the custom sheets I've gotten recently are all as stripy as possible, as figured as possible, because it's more interesting to look at.
Yeah.
It just gives the guitar more character, which I like, yeah.
So with the Addy top, it's a 4-piece top. They're making 3 cuts. And what was explained was that this has to be done in a very specific way. Now, in the past, there were 2 things that happened. If you go far enough back in acoustic guitars or even mandolin lore, right, there are a lot of companies that were building with multi-piece tops, and it wasn't any big thing, right? Back when Gibson was making J45s initially, it was just, hey, can I get a guitar that's playable and sounds good? And that becomes a legendary guitar because it was an early thing that you could have that was produced well. There wasn't the fixation at the time around how many pieces the top or the back or anything should be made out of. Now, if you fast forward, two things happen throughout guitar manufacturing history, I think. One, guitar manufacturers kind of settle into a blueprint of what they're building. And for the most part, it's book-matched top and book-matched back and sides. And then some things emerge, like a D35. Oh, we're going to do a three-piece top on this. And lore develops. Oh, they sound different because of the three-piece back. Not top, sorry.
Yeah.
Three-piece back. Well, no, they sound different because the bracing is dramatically different on them. That's why they sound different. And so Taylor's been actually doing, three-piece backs, two-piece backs, four-piece backs for a long time. Lots of manufacturers have. There's manufacturers, and Taylor's done this, where you use mini wedges or what have you. But the top has typically still been a book-matched piece, and it's what has become normal, and I think what people think it should be. But I think a lot of times your expectations are just predicated upon what you've seen and familiar with. So I am open to, it can be as many top pieces as it needs to be, as long as it's done right. And to be done right, it has to be mitered, and it has to be perfectly squared, and it has to be, joined. There's a lot of very advanced woodworking that needs to go in to make any top, book-matched two-piece or otherwise, into a well put-together top. And we can't tell this is a four-piece top. So when we unboxed it, we were kind of like, I think I see the line, and then I think I'm wrong. Yeah. Because if the line's here, then this other side doesn't make sense. So I don't think you could tell unless they're telling you, and I appreciate that they're actually telling you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of other manufacturers would just run with it.
I think it's a big thing. They would not do an experiment on what will potentially be one of their best sellers.
Right.
814 is already the most important guitar probably that they make. Mm-hmm. And adding the Builder's Edition has been so wildly successful. People prefer them often to their non-Builder's Edition versions. Yeah. As we've seen, K24, 912, especially 324. It's crazy how many people find that they prefer the Builder's Edition. They're not doing an experiment on this, hoping that it works out. It has definitely been probably in the works for many years.
They've put in the time to do the homework and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, it makes it a more interesting guitar that they're doing something that is sort of counterintuitive. Nobody would ever guess that they're going to do a four-piece top on their flagship Builder's Edition. You know that they've put in the work and why not then come out and be transparent about it, because it sounds fantastic. It looks great. Like you said, we can't even really find. But yeah, it's exciting. I think that this one especially is unique and cool because it's a Builder's Edition of their most popular guitar, and they're doing things like it's the only Adirondack top in the whole lineup right now. It's the only gloss finished Builder's Edition. So they're doing all this stuff to set it apart. I think it's very cool.
And there was a question I think that came up to Andy of how does this get laid out? Because if you book match a guitar top, you take a piece of wood and you cut it and you open it up like that, and the grain aligns, and that's how you book match a top. That's why it's called book matched. So in this case, they're taking a piece of wood and they're cutting it in three sections. So you have four pieces, and then they're kind of doing this and then moving those out and then doing like that, which is interesting. To think about. And I think there was discussion of the grain aligns better that way, and as we've seen on this guitar, that's true. Yeah. So very cool guitar. We're super impressed by it, and I'll say this before we do the demo, which Cooper did a fantastic job on it, and I was like, it looks like it plays really, really well. It does. When we did those exclusives, we said on the video, I don't know if it's V-Class, but my suspicion is it's V-Class, that Addy on a brand new guitar is sometimes tight, and it's not on these guitars. And this Builder's Edition 814 CE holds to that. Yeah. It's Addy that's not all super tight, but performs like you expect Addy to. It's a little more guttural, particularly in that mid-range. It's a bit more volume, but it's not asking for too much. Yeah. So we're going to take a listen, so check it out for yourself. So there you have it. Taylor's new Builder's Edition 814 CE new for 2023. I think it's a home run. We've ordered a bunch for launch. So if you're interested in this guitar, you definitely want to go to our website, which is
alamomusic.com.
You can chat with someone there, and we can get financing or whatever. Make sure you have the right guitar to suit your needs and meet your dreams. The other thing that I want to tell you about is that we are definitely going to pit this against a normal 814 CE, where the sound and the differences when it comes to comfort and playability can really be shown. So if you're interested in that, you want to make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Like our videos and comment below, and I'd like to hear what you think in the comments. When it comes to that four-piece top, early on when I heard it was a four-piece top before I'd seen anything about the guitar, I said, okay, it has to be as good or better than for that to work. Mm-hmm. And I think it is. I think it's as good. Is it better? I don't know, but it's definitely not a deterrent from
Yeah.
the guitar. So I like that they've done this. I like that Taylor's not afraid to it's kind of the put up or shut up, you know, of say, this is what we believe and this is what we think, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is, literally, by rolling out our flagship Builder's Edition with these build qualities. And great guitar.
It's very cool. Sounds good. It's easier to play than anything. It's like, for such a high-end guitar, sometimes I feel like people expect that they're gonna have to really work at playing this guitar. I'm not gonna name any names, but especially if you've started on something, particularly a Taylor, maybe you started on a 114 or 214, like many people, it is just as easy to play. And I hear so many people talking about, well, Adirondack, I don't know if I want to be working that hard against it. I'm trying to make it. There's none of that here. So
absolutely.
It's
don't want to be
awesome.
chopping wood the whole time you're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic playability, fantastic comfort, great tone. It's kind of what you would expect. And to boot, we really haven't mentioned price, but it's only a few $100s more than normal 814 CE. So for all the price detail information, because it can change, you want to check out our website. But yeah, right now at launch, it's a few $100s more, and as far as expensive guitars go, that's a bargain.
Yeah, and if you were to take an 814, put an Addy top and a beveled armrest in the
you couldn't even do the rest.
Yeah.
You couldn't even do the cutaway stuff.
But just the armrest and the top in the custom shop would be taking you well over the probably $5,000, $5,500 mark. It's they're making these changes for player access and bringing the custom shop to the masses, I would say. So it's worthwhile to check.
Well, there you go. So if you're new to the channel, like I said, do all those things that I said before, and we will see you next time.